Hi, so this is a video on Xlookup. So there's another video on VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP and lookup, and I've done a separate one here for Xlookup. Okay, so the quick takeaway is if you've got a new version of Excel and it's got Xlookup, it's what you really should be using. It is better than all of the other three lookups, and it does everything the other three do, all combined into one. So if you've got it, this is what I would be, this is what I now use. So when we used this data set in the last video to demonstrate lookup, this was an ordered list, and now you can see that what I've actually done is I've ordered them by date, and by doing so, this list of order IDs is all over the place. You can see it goes 111, 116, 1117 and 102, so it's like it's not ordered. So that's the important takeaway. It's not an ordered list. So and also what I want to do is I want to return something to the left of, so I'm going to search in this order column and I want to return something to the left, and so in an unordered list, returning something from the left was previously not possible with VLOOKUP or lookup. Okay, so Xlookup has come along to save us. Okay, so let's have a look how we do this. It's actually very powerful, and there's actually quite a few options, but I'll show it you in its most basic form, and then I'll go through some of the additional options that you can add to it. So it's XL for lookup, okay, and it works essentially the same as lookup, okay, at its most basic level. So what value are we going to look at? Well, we're going to look up this order ID number here in A28, comma, where do I want to look it up? Well, I want to look it up from this list of all possible order IDs here. Okay, no problem. And where do I want to get my answer from? Well, I'd like my result to match from somewhere in this list. Okay, so at its very basic level, those were the three options that you would put into lookup, and that will actually work, and I can press enter and it's found the correct date. Okay, and that whole process wouldn't have worked in lookup, because as I mentioned, this is not an ordered list. Okay, so that's great. So and obviously we can select columns from the left or the right hand side. For example, let me do another one with this cost. So I'm going to say equals Xlookup on the order ID from this column, and I want it to give me the cost. Okay, so that worked perfectly. Okay, so let's look at some of the other options, because there's a few, quite a few actually. So there's three additional parameters that you can put into this, or three different arguments you can put in. And you know that they are optional because they're inside of square brackets. Remember, we don't write the square brackets, we just they're just telling you that this is an optional thing. So first of all, really nice, if not found. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So in the past, if it couldn't find it, it would just write NA, and you sort of knew that it couldn't find it. But I'm trying to think if there's another example that could cause an NA. Potentially there could have been, because it's sort of a generic Excel. You might not be 100% sure if everything was correct. I think it. But what you can now do is customize your own error message. So we could say order ID not found. Okay. Now obviously now I'm just going to type in a new order ID here, and I'll just widen my column, double click, and look at that, order ID not found. So really fun, really nice, some really nice text back to the user saying it's not working. So that's great. Let's now go over to a different table here. Oh look, that's where I was practicing with one of the other options. So here's where it can do. Here's where you can get it to take some of the other functionality from a VLOOKUP. I don't know if you've seen the VLOOKUP video, then this section here was used when you put the true operator at the end for it to give you an approximate match. Okay, so let's see how we would go about doing that. So So the idea of this is we've got, now these are in order, but it doesn't matter. And so what I want to do is I want to try and find the number 9 inside of this selection here. And obviously 9's not there. So let's have a little look at how we would do that. So I'm going to say equals Xlookup, try and look up this number 9, comma. Where do I want you to look it up? I want you to look it up from this little list here. Okay, that's where I want you to try and find it, comma. If you find it, I want you to give me the matching discount from that column. Now, it's not always necessary to specify, so I'm not going to bother with an if not found. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you skip past it, but you do have to put the comma in as if there is something there. I'll show you what I mean. So look, I'm going to put the comma. Now it's expecting me now to type in an if not found, but because it's optional, I can just sort of put another comma in and move to the next thing. Now, so this is great, and again, this gives us more functionality than we had with the original VLOOKUP, because what the original VLOOKUP would do is it would do this, but if we did an approximate match, what it would actually do is an exact match or the next smaller item. Okay, that's what it would do by default. So if I choose that and then press enter, that matches with the 0%. Okay, so it tries to find it. If it doesn't find it, so it tried to find 9, it went 1, it looked for 9, it came across 10, it would have checked all of them because it's an Xlookup and isn't interested in it being an ordered list. So then it gives me the next lowest number that it matched, which in this case, the lowest number next to 9 is the 1, and so it returned me the 0%. But look, what's cool is if I delete the -1, look, we can, and we've not had this option before, we can have the exact match or the next larger item. So let's try that, and that should then default to the 10, giving us 3%. Enter, and it does. Okay, and let me just delete that. Okay, and the other, put that comma back in, is there are some wildcards. Okay, so you can use question marks and things like that if you want it to match. If you've got partial matches, if you know what some of the word is, and you're uncertain of some letters, then you can replace them with question marks and things like that. And that's what this wildcard option is for. I'm going to put another comma in because there is one more list of options. Okay, maybe not as useful. But this would probably come in handy if you've got lots of data, and I mean lots of data, because these VLOOKUPs, or Xlookups, sorry, although they're quite energy sort of consuming if you've got a lot of data. If you've got millions or tens or hundreds of thousands of rows, and you've got lots of these going on, then these can consume quite a bit of computer power. Okay, which means, and what I mean by that is they can be slow. Okay, so by default it will search first to last, which really means top to bottom. So it will come in here, it will start looking at this 1, in this case they're ordered, and it will go down to this 10,000. If you're pretty certain that the thing you're looking for is near the bottom and you want it to go from the bottom upwards, okay, which would save time if it found it, then you can search last to first. Now, if there is something called a binary search. Now, binary searching is a very quick way of searching for something, but one rule of a binary search is that the data must be in order, because what it does is it jumps halfway through it and looks to see if the value is there, and then it can eliminate that whole half of the list. So, for example, this goes from 1 to 10,000. Okay, so say we were trying to look up 900, it would say, okay, it would jump straight away to say 5,000. It would look for a 5,000 object in here. It would go to the halfway point, and then it would know, right, I can discard that half of my search. And it basically, you can get to somewhere incredibly efficiently in just a few jumps if you know they're in order. Okay. And so that's what really this last options are for. Let me just come back to that. So put this final comma in. So you've got a 2 and a -2. Okay. If you know your data is sorted in ascending order, then you would choose 2. If it's in descending order, you choose -2, and then it will, even if you've got a million items in your list, it will do it in, it can do it in like 8 jumps or something like that. It can do it incredibly quickly with a binary search, but it must be ordered. Okay, so that's one really good way of really speeding up a huge data set if you've got an ordered list on that column. So there you go, that's Xlookup. It is by far the best of the lookups. Like I say, you do need a relatively new version. Office 365 comes with it. But yeah, hopefully you find that very useful, and it's the one that I now use for all my lookups.